Hey, 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 how y'all doing? Tyra here, your wellness coach, coming to you on this Wednesday. This is Well Woman Wednesday, where we meet here every Wednesday to equip women like yourself with practical strategies for living well holistically in the mind, the body, and the spirit. Listen, we have got a good conversation on tonight. I don't know if you caught the title of this broadcast, but we're going to be talking about the number one killer of Black women. This is a serious conversation that we need to have, but I also want to give you some practical tools and some practical strategies so that we're not a part of this statistic, and also some tools that you can equip your aunties, your grandma, your mom, your relatives with this empowering truth, so that our families, our loved ones, even our neighbors are not in this same situation. So, welcome in the room. Is it the sugar? Well, we're going to be talking about the sugar in just a minute. We're going to be talking about the sugar among other things. So, welcome in the room, all those who are jumping on. This is American Heart Month. And so, we're going to be talking about practical things that we can do to be heart healthy this month. Come on, sis. Because I love you, I want you taking care of this heart. And not only this heart right here that's beating in your chest, but your other heart too. Your heart that loves. Your heart that rationalizes. Your heart that thinks. Do you know your heart thinks? Yes, it does. And do you know that your feeling heart actually impacts your beating heart? So we're going to be talking about all of that and then some. So thank you all who have joined tonight for Well Woman Wednesday, where we come in the room to equip driven women like yourself with practical strategies on holistic living, mind, body, and spirit. And since February is American Heart Month, all month long, we are going to be sharing things that you can do to improve your heart health. But tonight we're going to break down some of the why it's even important for us to be having this conversation. So if you would be a dear and invite a friend, tag your girlfriend. Listen, any woman of color that you love, you need to tag her. You know why? Because heart disease disproportionately impacts women of color. We should all be talking about this. This should be like the number one conversation that we're having in our families, in our homes, with our doctors. Not only is heart disease the number one killer on the planet, not only is heart disease impacting women, heart disease disproportionately impacts women of color. So this is an issue that not only we need to talk about, but we need to do something about. So that is why we're here tonight. So we can talk about some practical strategies on how we can reverse some of this. But let us do this. Let us start out by saying we did not just end up here. We are not just suffering from heart disease at disproportionate rates just because we want to. We're not suffering from these rates and incidences of heart disease just because we're not eating right. No. There's a big thing that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about big issues like heart health. And one of the things we have to look at are social determinants of health. So there are some things that are outside of just like, oh, these are lifestyle diseases, fix your diet and exercise and it's all going to go away. So while some of that may be the case, and maybe we do need to clean up our diets, and surely we could probably exercise a little bit more, there are things like stress. Thank you, Shonda. Thank you. There are things like stress, which impact our health. There are things like living in a food desert. If you live in a community that does not have access to fresh foods within a couple of miles, then that's going to adversely impact your health. Listen to this. If you're a Black mom with a Black son today, ain't no way that that's going to bypass impacting your heart health. when we live in a world that says black and brown lives don't matter, and we know that they do matter, listen, honey, that is going to have an impact on your heart. If you have to work overtime at work, but you know that your child has a science fair project due in 2 days, but you also know that your job is on the line because you had another one of your children that was sick and you've already had to call out multiple days. Yeah, things like that are social determinants of health, all right? So some of this stuff is not even directly in our control, and yet it disproportionately impacts our health, all right? So I want us to rest assured knowing that, sister, you may already be trying to do a good job to positively impact your heart health, but some of the things in the deck may just be stacked against us just because of the neighborhoods where we lived in or grew up in, because of some of the societal pressures we may have faced, because of the learned behaviors we may have learned from our people that have come before us. There are lots of things that impact our health, and it's not just did we exercise and eat right. Okay, so there are a lot of factors that we take into consideration. I just want to share some data with you right quick, because I would be remiss if I didn't give you the totality, the full picture of what we're dealing with when we talk about how critical this issue of heart health is for African American women. So let's take a look at this. Cardiovascular disease kills more than 50,000 women annually, all right? And under cardiovascular disease is also, when we're talking about heart disease, we're also talking about potential risk for stroke. Stroke is a leading cause of death among Black women. Nearly 59% of Black women have cardiovascular disease. Wait, do I need to say that again? Nearly 59% of Black women have cardiovascular disease. This is so heartbreaking to me. Listen to this. Nearly 58% of women have high blood pressure, and of that, only 20% are managing that or have it under control to some degree. All right. Whew. Y'all, we got to do something about this. We have to do something about this. But that's why we're in the room tonight, so that we can get some practical tips, tools, and strategies on how we deal with this. I also read some data, and there's been some research done that says that heart disease among African Americans may be genetic. Now, most of the diseases that disproportionately affect our community, most of them are things that can be attributed to lifestyle, right? That has some lifestyle factor, like obesity, type 2 diabetes. Lifestyle can impact these things. But if you're talking about something genetic, genetics are different than lifestyle, okay? And so there is some research which says that our propensity to be impacted by salt may be genetic. But the verdict is still out on that one, because there are dissenting opinions. But there is some data to suggest that salt may impact our bodies differently than it does other races. So with that in mind, what can we do to positively impact our health? Thank you for joining. If you are just jumping on, tonight we're talking about the number one killer of African American women, and that is heart disease, okay? And so not only is it the number one killer for African American women, but it is also the number one killer just on the planet in general, heart diseases. So I know that we hear a lot of talk about cancers. I know that we hear a lot of talk about other types of diseases, other types of viruses, but heart disease remains the number one killer on the planet, not only in this country, but on the planet. So what as women of color can we do to improve our outcomes? All right. So tonight I'm going to share with you six things that I want you to look at so that we can reverse the tide. And I want you to share these tips. Share them with your mom, share them with your grandmama, share them with your aunties. Listen, if you need to go to your auntie's house, to your grandma's house, to your mama's house, and even help them with a kitchen makeover. If you need to go pick up your mom and tell her, put your walking sneakers on, honey, we're going for a walk today. You do that, all right? Because we are a community of women and we are in this together so that God can satisfy us with long life. That is a Bible verse. Satisfy me with long life. But you know what? In order for God to satisfy us with long life, we have to do our part. So here we are coming in the room to get this wisdom in American Heart Month on how we can best improve our heart health. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is know your numbers. Sometimes women have high blood pressure and they don't know it unless it's like really, really extremely high. Then you may get some symptoms like headache. But oftentimes people can have high blood pressure and not really have any symptoms and not know, okay? So know your numbers. Get your blood pressure checked, all right? In addition to knowing your blood pressure numbers, I also want you to know your cholesterol numbers, and not just your total cholesterol. I want you to know your HDL, your LDL, and your triglycerides, all right? So make sure you know those numbers. Get your annual physicals. Get your blood work done. Know what you're working with. You don't want to be unaware or ignorant as to what is going on in your own body. Some things you may feel in your body, some things you may sense, but if you don't know, you don't know, and you don't know how to address it, all right? So I want you to know your numbers. If you are due for an annual physical, I'm going to encourage you to get your physical, get your blood work done, get a copy of your labs. Call a trusted friend, call somebody, call a medical professional that you trust. If your doctor is not explaining things to you, I mean, you probably need to find a new doctor if they're not, but nonetheless, if you feel your doctor is rushing you, get your labs, learn how to read them, have somebody teach you how to read them, be informed, all right? Know your numbers. Second thing, I want us as a collective of women of color to manage our weight, okay? Just who we are as a people. All body sizes, all shapes are loved and appreciated. But because we want to be heart healthy, we want to manage our weight. You know, growing up, I heard terms like big boned and all kind of other things we use to describe somebody's physical shape and the benefits, the allure, you know, of having a thick, voluptuous body. It's a part of who we are, right? It's just in our DNA and in our makeup, all right? We got boobs, we got hips, we're beautiful, we're curvaceous. Some of that is even just for the propagation of the species, right? Because, you know, this is science. This is not even just aesthetics. Depending on a certain shape and a certain body size, like the male brain thinks, oh, she'll procreate, you know, so we're just talking about the propagation of the species, okay? Nonetheless, back to the point at hand, we do need to manage our weight. Sometimes we're carrying extra weight on our frame that comes from lack of movement, that may come from a poor diet. I am not saying that you need to be like just on the scale every week, you know, trying to micromanage this thing, because weight can fluctuate. Weight can fluctuate based on what kind of medications you take. Heck, my weight can fluctuate from the morning to the night, all right? From the morning to the night, your weight can fluctuate. But we have to be at a healthy body weight. We want to manage our weight. And how can we do that in a healthy way? We can do that through proper nourishment, through proper rest and movement. Y'all got that? Through proper nourishment, through proper rest, and through proper movement. So with our nourishment, no matter what eating modality you choose, whether you're saying I am paleo, whether you're saying I don't eat carbs, whether you're saying I'm vegan, whatever dietary preference you have, I think that we can all agree as sisters, we can all agree that eating more vegetables is a good idea, okay? So I want you to ensure you're eating your leafy green vegetables. I want you to be sure that you're getting healthy seeds, nuts, healthy fats like avocado, healthy oils like olive oil. I want you to do your part to get your proper nutrition. Then your movement, we've got to move these bodies. We've got calories coming in, then we need to burn some calories. We weren't meant to be a sedentary people. Listen, from the time you were an amniotic fluid floating in your mama's womb, you've been moving. So baby, go ahead, move, dance, play with your kids, run with your grandkids, go for a walk, move that body. It is good for your heart. Strength training is good, but you know what? Old-fashioned walking is good for you too. All right. So we want to have our proper nourishment, our movement, and then sleep. Oh my goodness. Do you know that lack of sleep can actually cause you to gain weight? So it is important for your heart health for you to actually get a good night's rest. All right. So y'all got that? Y'all got those first things we're doing. You're going to know your numbers. You're going to manage your weight through proper movement, through nourishment, and through sleep. I want you to check the salt you're using. Okay, so this is the third thing. I want you to check the type of salt you're using. Not all salt is created equal. When I was a little girl, we always had in my house the blue container of like Morton's table salt. Okay, so sometimes Big Mama and them was a little bit heavy-handed on that salt. And then after they would cook, sometimes they add even more salt to their food. And then you go adding something like hot sauce, which is just basically full of salt. And we wonder why we got a blood pressure problem. All right. And we wonder why we got heart disease. Because we done put salt on top of salt, on top of salt, on top of salt. So I have a few recommendations for you in the salt. These days, I know there's a lot of talk about Himalayan salt and Himalayan salt having all these trace minerals and it being one of the best for us. And that is good if what we had was truly Himalayan salt. Some of the Himalayan salt that we see on the market today are blends, they're mixes. And some of it is just not authentic. Okay. So I'm going to recommend Celtic salt. I use 1 sea salt. I think it's Maldon. Is it Maldon? Maldon. I think that's what it is. It's in a blue and green box. And also Redmond's real salt, which is mined right here in the United States of America. Okay. So there are 3 salt recommendations for you that are going to be a little bit better than your basic table salt. So Maldon sea salt, Redmond real salt, and then Celtic salt. Okay, so check your salts. Now, check your fridge door for what salt you got hiding in there. And check your pantry for what salt you got hiding in there. So if you're cooking with salt, and we also know that salt is a preservative. Oh, so check your freezer too for the salt that may be hiding in there. So if you're eating packaged foods, say you're eating something like a rice blend that comes with a seasoning packet, or you're eating, I saw these in Costco one time. It's like some Indian food pre-cooked already and in a little package thing, and it's warm. You warm it up and you're thinking, wow, I'm eating healthy. You know, it's just like some Indian lentils or something. Man, these things are like laced with way too much sodium, okay? So I want you all to be aware of the sodium that is lurking in your pantry, in your freezer, in your packaged snacks, in your fridge door. If you guys like bottled sauces, dressings, that kind of stuff, and you've got a ton of that in your fridge, I'm going to challenge you to look at the sodium that's in these things and consider giving them a pass. All right. So look for this hidden salt. So not only are you going to be swapping out your salts for the 3 I've recommended, but you're also going to be getting rid of, paying attention to and getting rid of some of this sodium that's just hiding in all of our foods. All right. And so when we couple that with, and then you went to your favorite spot for lunch too, and you ate a turkey sandwich and a bag of chips and something else, and then that all had salt in it. You see how this can build up? And then you think, oh, but I ate healthy and I had the soup in the half sandwich from Panera, but that soup had so much salt in it. So thank you all who are just joining for our Well Woman Wednesday, where we come in the room every Wednesday to equip driven women like yourself with practical strategies for holistic wellness. And because this is American Heart Month, we're talking about it. We got to talk about it, y'all. Listen, I love you. You love your aunties, your grandmas, all the women in your circle of influence. Women of color are disproportionately affected by heart disease. And y'all, we got to turn the tide on this. We've got to do something better. All right. So I'm giving y'all some strategies tonight. Our first one was know your numbers. Take your blood pressure. Blood pressure is one of those silent things we tend not to know until it's like way over the top. All right. So we're going to know our cholesterol numbers, our LDL, our total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and our triglycerides. That's going to let us know what's really going on inside them arteries. You want to manage your weight through proper nourishment, movement, and rest. You're going to check your salt. That little Morton's table salt business we used when we were kids, that ain't going to fly these days. Then you're going to check your fridge, your pantry, your freezer for some of this hidden salt. Look at the sodium content. And when you look at the sodium content, so like say in your pantry right now, you have a can of soup. You know, if that soup says 2 or 3 servings per container, and maybe you would eat 1 can of that soup at a time, then you're going to have to multiply that sodium number that's on there times the number of servings that are in that container, okay? And then you'll be astounded that even maybe in 1 can of soup or in 1 carton of soup, you've easily exceeded your daily intake for sodium, okay? And then sometimes your body tells you when that's too much salt. Are your fingers swollen and then you can't get your rings off? That may tell you that you've consumed too much salt. Are your feet swollen? You know, this may be just one indication that perhaps you've had too much salt. Now, swelling can be a lot of things, but it can indicate too much salt. All right. I also want you to take a look at your oils. So the oils that we're using can definitely contribute to clogging our arteries and contributing to heart disease. Okay. So maybe when you grew up, you were using like vegetable oil blends, peanut oil, I'm not sure. And then there was an era a couple of years back where somebody told us that like canola oil was better for us. So then maybe you switch from your vegetable oil to canola oil. I want us to be very, very mindful of the oils that we're using to cook with in our kitchen, and to know the oils that they're using to cook with in restaurants in your favorite places. You know, if you're getting your some kind of French fries or fried whatever, you're getting maybe wings, you know, you're getting your wings dipped in sauce. Your sauce is going to have way too much sodium. And then the oil that's used to fry those wings, fry. And now it's like trans fat, and then it's no good for you. All right. So at home in general, for non-cooking purposes, if you're like making salad dressings and things like that, olive oil is a good choice. If you're cooking with your oils, avocado oil is a good choice. Okay, so check your oils. We do not want to be clogging up these arteries. We want this blood flowing through these arteries so that we're not creating a heart problem. All right. Control your blood sugar. Here is our next heart health tip, as we are going to be reversing the tide to these numbers, which disproportionately affect women of color. We are going to be managing our blood sugar. But you know, not only is it just in the sugar that we're eating in cakes, pies, cookies, sodas, that sort of thing. You all know that sugar's hiding in everything. You know it is. It's in your ketchup. It's in your sriracha sauce. It's in that sauce that was on the wings. It is in your barbecue sauce. It is in your bread. It is in your crackers, even your healthy crackers. It is in everything. So I need you all to be mindful. It's in your salad dressing. You were like, okay, Tyra, we heard you for the last 6 years talking about salad. And then we go to look at our salad dressings and they're full of sugar. Okay, so I need us to be very, very mindful. Oh, it's in your big giant venti cup of coffee that has more than your daily sugar intake in that one big giant cup of coffee. All right, so I need us to be managing our blood sugars so that we're not sending ourselves over the edge. Then the things that we eat that turn into glucose in the body, like highly refined pastas, white rice, this sort of thing. So we have to be very, very mindful, sisters. Very mindful. I'm not asking you to take this information and do everything overnight. Pick one. I've given you maybe 5 or 6 right here, right? Pick one and decide what you can do about it to positively impact your health. And then our last tip for tonight, as we are discussing things we can do to reverse the tide for the number one killer for women of color, our heart disease. We've got to reverse the tide on this. Here's one tip that you can do, and I want you to read and research this. You all, I use this example all the time. I'm going to use it again tonight. If you all were planning your vacation, you would do your due diligence to map that thing out. You would research all your Airbnbs. You would be finding the cheapest plane tickets. You would be like on the internet. You'd be using different routers so that thing wouldn't be tracking your router, so that the prices wouldn't fluctuate like crazy. You would be doing all the things to plan your vacation. So I want you to do all the things to look into some of these. So if you or someone that you do know is at risk for some of the factors we've talked about earlier, here are 3 natural things that you can research, look into to support your heart health. All right. Cinnamon. All cinnamon is not created equal. All right. So I want you all to look into Ceylon cinnamon, Ceylon. All right. I want you all to look into Ceylon cinnamon. There is data which supports that cinnamon has been effective in helping to lower your blood pressure. All right. So I want you all to look into Ceylon cinnamon. I get my cinnamon, organic Ceylon cinnamon, in bulk from my natural food store, and it costs me pennies. So if you have a natural food store near you and they sell spices in bulk, go and find you some Ceylon cinnamon. But McCormick brand does make a organic Ceylon cinnamon, and it's available in the conventional grocery store. Okay, so go find you some Ceylon cinnamon. Up next, mungwort. Mungwort is an herb which in some studies has been shown to help lower blood pressure, among other things. So you do your research and you look into mungwort. And then last but not least, if I got any island gals on the broadcast right now watching, you will know about hibiscus, and not only its nice fragrance, and not only its delicious flavor, and not only its beautiful rich color, but its health benefits in supporting lowering blood pressure. All right, so y'all got those three. You got your Ceylon cinnamon, you got your hibiscus, and you got your mungwort. All right, so I want to thank you all for joining me today, this Well Woman Wednesday, where we come in the room every week to equip driven women like yourself with practical strategies for holistic living, mind, body, and spirit. February is American Heart Month. So tonight I've shared about 6 practical things you all can do to support your heart health. And remember, this is not only for you, but this is for all the women in your circle of influence. One last bit that I want to leave you with. If we're talking about heart health, we can't talk about heart health without addressing issues of the heart. Maybe you've heard it before that when like one spouse passes away, the other spouse passes close behind from a broken heart. So our heart condition, feeling our heart, can literally impact our heart health. So it is my prayer that you have the support that you need so that your heart is nurtured, your heart is loved, your heart is whole, and your heart is healed. Whether you're doing that with your circle of friends, whether that is love with your spouse and your children, whether that is seeking therapy, definitely in order for us to be in heart health, we got to mend this heart right here. All right. And ultimately, God is the heart mender. So if there's any hole in the heart, if there's any issue in the heart that you need to deal with, take it to him because he loves you with an everlasting love. Okay. So there's our strategy, friends. I pray that you have an amazing heart month. I pray that you take one of these strategies we talked about today and that you implement it sometime this week. By this weekend, at least one of the 6 tips. If you missed any of the 6 tips, once this broadcast hits the page, go back, catch the replay, and share this message with a friend. God bless. Take care. And until next time. This month, since it's National Heart Month, American Heart Month, I am going to be bringing some guests on. I will be so happy to share them with you. You guys are going to hear from my good wellness friend, James Tate, as he talks about involving children, because we want to pass on to the next generation a legacy of health and wellness. I'm going to have another sister friend on mine talking about clean beauty. And we're going to talk about how our beauty products are impacting our health. So we got some great conversations lined up for the month. All right. So God bless. Take care. And until next time, it is my prayer that you've been inspired to live fully. See you soon.